Gentlemen. It's 6 o'clock, so we'll go ahead and get started. If we're ready, are we ready?
Yep.
Okay. Today's city council meeting is July 5th, 2023, and it's 6 o'clock. Scott Spencer has volunteered to say the prayer. Chief Scott Spencer, come on up.
Good job, Mayor.
I've fallen cold or something like
No. Well, at least for now, until the serving course is home.
Our Father in heaven, we come humbly before this evening, giving thanks for the many blessings and opportunities we have to live in such a great country, and for the celebration we've enjoyed to celebrate the years that we've had as a free country to do the things we choose to do and have the rights, liberties, and that pertain therein. We ask that will bless the mayor and council members as they talk about things pertaining to our city, that they may be enlightened and make choices that will benefit our community. We're so thankful for the citizens and all those that live in our community, and for the natural beauties we have around us. And we ask that will bless us with any of the blessings thou sees us stand in need of, when we say these things humbly in the name of thy Son, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Chief. Council Carter is. Let me lead us to the pledge.
Please stand and repeat with me. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States to the republic which stands one nation indivisible with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Linda. Okay, going on to B, consent agenda. Number one, approval of the June 21st, 2023 city council minutes. Number two, resolution Utah County Agreement, Communities that Care. Number three, resolution Utah Main Street Project Support. And number four, Nebo School District notice for purchase of the Wilson Elementary School. Unless there's any discussion, council, I'm ready for a motion. What's that mean? I'm not exactly sure. Dave?
Yeah, my computer's trying to pull up. It's like 2.4 million.
3 or 4. Yeah, it's really a pretty good.
Yeah,
Okay.
I thought I put it in somewhere. Probably in that resolution. Yeah, it's in
Any
the
other
resolution.
questions on the consent agenda? If not, I'm ready for a motion.
I'll make a motion that we accept the consent agenda for June 21st, 2013.
I'll second that. I will.
Just
July 5th. No, it's a consent agenda.
we could just do the consent agenda, the whole thing.
Yeah, the whole thing.
And the resolutions, all three of the resolutions.
So you're.
I'll
the
second
consent
those
agenda,
changes.
Yeah, the consent agenda,
Yeah, but it's July 5th consent agenda for the June
21st.
I got what it was. We got it straightened out.
Okay, you good? Okay, we have a motion. Is there a second?
Yes.
Okay, you seconded, okay. Roll call vote starting with Council Hyatt.
Yeah.
Council Beaker.
Yes.
Council Carter.
Yes.
Council Christensen.
Yes.
Okay, before I forget, we'd like to use the council Bob Postcard, he's traveling and not able to be here. Okay, motion carried, and thank you for that. Going on to petitions. We do number one is Payson. April. Come on up with your royalty.
Hello, Mayor, City Council. I would like to introduce you to this year's 2023 royalty. Our queen is Adeline Hansen. Our first attendant is Amanda Johnson, and our second attendant is Lexi Mellon. And they're each going to tell you who their parents are, and their CSI, which is their community service initiative. The Miss America pageant has moved from a platform to a CSI, so it's called a community service initiative, and that is what the girls are working on to improve their community, basically. So they're each going to introduce to you what their CSI is, and then they're open for questions. Go ahead.
Hi there, everyone. I'm Adeline Hansen, like April announced, and my parents are Mike and Vanessa Hansen. My CSI project is I'm partnering with the Boys and Girls Club here in Payson, and I bring it to more schools around because it's only at one, and I wanted to expand it to other places.
Got any questions for the week? Council? Okay, thank you for being here.
Thank you. Thank you. My name is Amanda Johnson. I'm daughter of David and Nicole Johnson. My CSI is happening here, and it focuses on abuse in the community, specifically for women and children. And I've partnered with a local shelter up in Provo to help get kids put together for the women and children staying there.
Thank you, Amanda.
My name is Lexi Mellon. My parents are Jake and Natalie Mellon. My CSI is Your Mind is Your Best Friend, which is just spreading mindfulness and what it is in this modern day and how we can implement it in our community and in everyone's everyday lives, just to improve the community's mental health a little bit.
Thank you. Just so you know, it was our privilege to be there that night, and it was wonderful. These ladies are very, very talented, and excited for them to represent our city.
It was a tough pageant. I do not know, like, we don't actually see the scores. The auditors finish the scoring, they give the envelope to the MCs, and then all of those points are given directly to the Miss America organization from the auditor. So I actually don't know how people scored, but I do know it had to have been so close because we had such amazing, talented candidates this year.
What did the girls do for talent?
Oh, go ahead.
I'm a singer, so I sang "Make You Feel My Love" by Adele.
Good.
I played piano and I played Misty by Ella Fitzgerald.
I'm a dancer, so I did Another Day of Sun and I danced to that.
So we have a big array of, we have a large array of talent this year.
Good. That's neat.
It was wonderful, really was, as you say, it was very, very tight.
It was so tight, and we were excited to have as many candidates running this year. It's always exciting to have more than less. And just the contestant pool, the candidates were, I wouldn't have wanted to be a judge. They were all so amazingly talented. So we're very excited to represent. We want to take a quick second to thank Brett. Brett helped get our float to Provo yesterday, and we had quite the experience.
We were
While
one-
driving his new adventure.
You didn't crash, did you? No.
Come back in one piece.
No.
Oh.
Wait, really?
We did last.
No.
It was missing.
It's okay, we have the file, we'll put it back on. We'll glue it back on, and actually, we've been taking it off between parades because it's so loose now. That's what happens when you run your float for 5 years.
Well, we took it off down there by the veterans home.
Right,
After it fell off, right?
anyway, we definitely want to thank you because you had the hardest parade to get things done.
Well, it probably wouldn't have been bad. I planned on doing it the night before, but that microburst came through and I'm like, I don't know that I did a full float in this wind and.
I don't think we
trying
would
to
have had a
do
float
thing.
left. I definitely think that I would have been crying as we rebuilt the entire float. That's not my favorite thing to do every time something happens to it, so
Yes, I can
Yes.
understand, but you're welcome.
we greatly appreciate you.
How many parades have you been in so far?
Four, yeah. But we had 3 in 24 hours, so that was.
Yeah.
Our first
Parades were all within a 24-hour
Yeah.
period of time. So we had Elkridge and then Springville and then Orem.
Yeah.
And then
In one day.
in 24 hours.
Elkridge was a night parade.
Oh.
And Elkridge loves us to come because we're pretty much the only float that comes. It's like the Goshen Parade, they love us too. Because we're pretty much the only float that comes. So they're always very excited when we say yes. I'm like, yeah, you bet, we'll come. So they did the Elkridge Parade on the Friday night. And then on Saturday, they did Springville in the morning. And then Orem is a night parade at 7 p.m. So Orem's an intense parade because it gets really dark. And this year it was cloudy and cold. I've never been to a parade where the people are wrapped in blankets and the queens and royalty were freezing. Yeah, they were so cold by the end of the parade. It was this is a new year. It's an adventure. Yeah.
It's either heat stroke or frostbite.
I can tell this road is gonna be somewhere.
I was gonna say, they are a riot. They've been a lot of fun so far. They're excited to be participating in anything. So if you have things that you would like them to be too, you can let.
Scottish Festival.
They're gonna walk up the street.
Yeah, they're gonna be at Scotch Festival on Saturday. They'll be there. So if there's anything you would like them specifically to be to, just let me know, or you can let one of them know, and they will do their best to be there. They're just really excited to be involved in our community and contribute where they can.
Well, we'd like to have a picture with them if we could.
You're welcome.
Absolutely.
Picture.
Come on.
Right up here.
My parents live up in the state.
Oh, you guys get there.
You need to come down.
Oh. We have to be over.
Yeah, we gotta be following.
You want to get in the middle?
That would be great. Like it's a.
This day.
Oh, yeah. All right, you ready? All right. Thank you. Maybe we need to take the hand, please.
Amanda.
Excited for everybody.
Oh. Oh, yeah, yeah.
That's the problem. They get younger every year.
Oh, that's it. I don't have a story. Goodbye. Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, moving on, we'll go to number 2, yard of the month.
All right. Well, I'm not gonna get behind the mic.
Why not?
Here, you can use this.
You can hear me, can't you?
No, here.
Oh, no.
Work. Just be careful of the wires. I know, but I'm just telling you, that I don't want you to fall. Period.
Okay, I wish there were some other members, beautification members here. Nope. Are you on the beautification? Did you vote? Good job. Okay. Annette, would you come up, please? Annette and I, this is Annette Draper, and she's on the committee, and we drove one day. How long? Yeah, we were going back and forth and up and down, and we came up with ours, and we nominated Dan Fatai. Did I say it right? I can't say your real first name. But anyway, Dan Fatai. And then, I know, but I was trying to think who, our police chief, Brad Bishop, nominated Wally Bueller and Cindy's home. So we are so happy to have both of them here with us. Do we have the certificates?
Oh,
Oh, yay.
yay. We'll get it to them.
We'll get you the certificate. How about the gift
money.
certificate?
We'll get them both.
Oh,
I think they're, my sister's out of state.
Yeah,
She said she's
Okay,
gonna leave.
okay, I'm so sorry. But I want both of you to come on up. Daniel and Cindy, come on up. And Scott, come up since you're on the committee. You can have your picture. And then this up here, this is Cindy Bueller and this is Daniel Fatai. And we are so excited, Daniel.
Council, you want to come up, get a
Yeah.
picture?
I was afraid you were gonna get left out of this. I almost started crying.
We got it, hon.
I saw it across the window.
No, yeah.
Come on, step over here in the middle, so we.
Yeah, you two stand right here. Thank you. Can I stand down here with the
You
mirror?
bet.
And then you can stand on the other side of Daniel. Okay. And then Scott. I'm just letting me.
Probably not.
I know. I know.
Thank you.
Okay. And
So-
you know, we did, yeah. Yeah, shake. Thank you for making that.
Appreciate it.
Good to see you. We give you $100 gift certificate to Olson, okay, and a certificate.
But they have.
Again.
Say what?
It's making lots of fun, it's going in.
Oh.
Oh, thank you, you guys.
Give those to you probably on.
That's good.
So the Buhner home is the June's the yard of the month, and then the Fatai is the July yard of the month. And we've also received a couple of more nominations for August, and we put that in the paper for people to nominate, so it's good. I told Cindy that hers, it was, and it's true, that it was unanimous, there the other people, I'll not nominate them, but it was unanimous, and Daniel, it was unanimous as well, so thank you for having beautiful yards.
Thank you. And your son had to entertain us when we met. Entertainment is nice. So, thank you so much.
Okay, moving on to number 3, public forum. Anyone can speak on items that are not on the agenda and try to be cognizant of the time that you spend, and just let us know who you are and where you live. So we'll go ahead and open the public forum. Not seeing anyone that wants to take advantage of it here. Anybody online? Okay, we'll go ahead and close the public forum. Well, number 4, staff reports. Have anybody? Okay, go on up, Tracy.
Don't forget, we have a meeting tomorrow morning.
I just wanted to stand and thank like Wes and Todd at the cemetery. We had that windstorm come through, and of course it happens like right the night before a holiday. So some people that weren't planning on working yesterday during the holiday went in and took care of stuff, and it kind of made me happy, not to offend anyone from Spanish Fork, but when I drove through Spanish Fork, they just put tape around there as caution tape, like we'll get it after the holiday, and our guys went in and took care of that. So I just want to publicly thank them. And then on the golf end, it's been real busy. Monday, we did 430 starts. That means 430 players. So that's a record by 27 people that we've ever done. So it just keeps getting busier and busier. So it's been good. But mostly I want to thank the Parks and Cemetery, Todd and Wes, that they stepped up during that. So thank you.
I wanted to say something. I went up to the cemetery and they were already up there.
Yeah,
And it was right after it happened and I was like, so impressed and I couldn't believe them.
yeah, the mayor was on the phone to me, and yeah, it was, yeah, they did a great job.
Same shout out to the employees, and I just want to put a plug in for the electricians as well, because there are a lot of power lines down.
And I reached out to Blaine and he sent me what one of the power guys reported to him, and several of the crews hadn't slept for like 20 hours. They were out getting power restored. I think we had some help from some other cities, but it was quite a windstorm. And just to let the council know, we did implement what you suggested, the free week at the landfill. And we put that out, so it's from today until next week. So hopefully people take advantage and get things cleaned up. And there was some messes in Payson because of the windstorm, but yeah, I appreciate the staff for what they did.
I just have a question. Will you have to tear down some of those trees that those big limbs fell at the park?
At the park, it's still kind of an assessment, probably not. Yeah, we lost 6 big trees at the cemetery.
Yeah.
So we'll replace those this fall. When it's better time to plant with the same type of tree, but. Yeah, it's sad to see some of them.
How many, that you put on the cemetery?
Headstones?
Headstones, where they're torn up.
None that I'm aware of.
Yes, there was.
Yeah, I'm just not aware of it. So yeah, I don't know. Like you from a tree.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't think there's any, but they fell off when one
Right, yeah.
headstone was not
Oh, that.
pedestal.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Well, thank you. Okay, any other staff? Thank you.
Well, it ain't gonna be 6:30.
Yeah, just a couple of things. We had a fun night Monday night, as everybody's commenting on, but we between the city and the county, we were over 20 calls responding. Mostly were power lines, trees into homes, into the power lines. It was really crazy. Fireworks have gone really well. First day to actually light them was Sunday. A lot of people got started on Friday and Saturday, and but yeah, there's a lot. We've had people out patrolling for a few nights, and thank goodness, not that I hate fireworks, but I'm tired of hearing them all night long. Tonight's last night until the 22nd. So it's gone good. We haven't had any fires or anything like that. We've confiscated quite a few illegal ones, but things have gone really well so far. So knock on wood. But anyway.
Thank you, Chief. Any other staff? If not, we'll move on to council reports. Okay, we'll move on to council.
Well, just an amen to everything that you said. It's great that we were able to get out there. I've heard that some neighboring communities had power lines that were down and nobody ever showed up for hours and hours and hours, and they were found, inadvertently and repaired that way. But so it was good to hear that we got out there and got them all fixed. It was definitely an exciting time there. I lost a couple of big trees myself. One of which the water department's got to come help me get out, because if I pull it out, the creek will breach, and well, had a lot of fun in my house. But no, I do think that the landfill was a good idea. I'm grateful that we're going to try to do that and give them the opportunity to get out there and get rid of that. A lot of roofs blew off and things like that. Homes damaged. So it's more than just the green waste. We've got to get rid of stumps or tuck to put through the grinder, so they've got to go in the landfill. So anyway, thank you.
I just have a couple of things. Yeah, I appreciate the staff for all that they've done. I know that after that storm, I drove out to the cemetery and was just amazed at those trees. I don't know if you got a chance to look at them, but oh man. Anyway, it was awful, and I appreciate the staff getting after it and doing what they did. I have had a number of calls, and I think it's probably because the celebrations are coming into town. And I've had a lot of people calling and wanting to know what we're going to do with the P on P Mountain. You know, it used to be the high school, didn't it? That did it?
I can answer some of those questions.
Oh, good.
And do you want me to do that right
Yeah,
now?
right now, because one of the people is in the audience.
I was contacted by two people, Richard Gray and Bonnie, Albert
Bonnie Ballard?
Valdez.
Oh, no. Oh, Valdez.
And anyhow, we've been working on the possibility of doing something with the P, and I've contacted the Forest Service. It's no longer BLM, but it's Forest Service that is over that. They've given us the okay to do what we would like to do, and possibly even like the P. We're gonna need some participation from the community as a whole and the alumni of the high school. It is the high school that has the agreement, but I would like to see the city connected to that, because it represents the city as well. But the Forest Service has given us their blessing, and we can use road access that they've got up to that. So we're actively going to, I've talked to Dave about what the city can do. We're going to take, there's going to be some engineering that has to be done, because there's some erosion that is, if you notice, there's erosion coming right down in the middle of the P. And so more freestanding.
What is it? What's the P now?
It's rock and cement.
Just white rock
Well, painted, it's been.
painted?
Yeah.
Okay,
But there's erosion, so some engineering is gonna have to take place so that we can divert that cure that erosion. And we've talked to our city engineer Travis and Jonathan. We've got a new drone that can fly up there and give us a real good picture of what needs to be done. So it's in progress.
well, I even was thinking it'd be, when we got all of that accumulated, it would be neat to put a article or in the paper asking for citizens on a certain day to go up there.
That's what this committee did. We
Good.
put together a committee,
Good.
starting with Richard and
Good.
Bonnie. And we'll get the drone up there and get that taken care of. We were so busy with some of the water issues
Right.
that took a back seat, but we definitely are wanting.
Good. I guess it was Spanish for that put the red up there. Springville, anyway,
Oh, that's funny.
okay. That'll be good. I'll tell the people that have asked. All right, and that's all I.
I'd like to comment too about the windstorm here real quickly and compliment our staff. The police department did a great job with the traffic. We were assisted by, I think Santa Cruz came over and helped. I know Salem came over with the fire department. Fire department was great. We're working together with the electrical departments that came. I know that the electrical and fire and police were right on with them, but I got up, well, they were bed, I'm the late person that goes to bed, but I got up out of the house and went, looked at the two areas I was aware of. And well, actually three, they had stabilized it with one of their trucks, boom trucks. They're on 400 west and 800 south. But the other two, they're actively working on, and about midnight. So I know that Provo and Lehigh came over and assisted us. They stayed all night long, working on those poles and stabilizing our electrical supply. There were many homes that the trees that fell on them and actually tore their service line out, and in some cases the meter. So we had our hands full, but I believe our staff took care of us very, very well. So kudos to all that were involved.
I don't know if any of you saw Joe Sandberg, so I know you did.
Yes.
Mayor, what happened at his house. It's just where I live, to the corner and down the hollow, just right there. It blew over one of his huge trees. It hit the house, the limbs did, but it didn't do any damage, he said. But he had a car that it fell on.
Have a picture of that.
Yeah, it's ugly, but I don't know if the city could offer any help to Joe to
I'm not sure.
Moved that tree. He was leaving it because the insurance company had to come. But anyway, that would be a kind thing to do.
How many houses were damaged? I know there's one in my neighborhood. I don't think anybody's living in it right now. It's damaged to that point. Is there more than that one or?
There were quite a few. That's the only one I know that they can't stay in.
Yeah,
Yeah.
But
That one we had
that's
to-
maybe 15 to 20 homes that, in the next morning still didn't have power because of trees falling on their service lines so that's just an estimate of the electric department.
Wild.
It was.
For common little Payson.
I missed all that. I was in love. I don't have anything to add other than what you've already said. Kudos to the staff.
Capital High.
I'm saying I've already done my piece, you guys were talking.
Okay, thank you, thank you. Okay, we'll move on to D, action items. Number 1, ordinance amendments to the Payson City Codes, chapter 13.34, relating to home occupations. Robert?
And just quickly share my screen. So council, these text amendments, like was mentioned, relate to home occupations. Just to make sure that everybody understands what that means. A home occupation is a business license that's been granted to someone to operate a business out of their home. And to just understand what a home occupation is supposed to be, basically just innocuous. You know, we allow these because it's good for the economy, it's good for our residents to have a place to do their business if necessary. But the guiding principle of a home occupation is that your neighbor shouldn't know what's going on. They shouldn't know that you have piano lessons going on. They shouldn't know that you have a home office there that you're doing work from and things like that. It's generally just in a residential community, and those are kind of the guiding principles. We have examples in Provo or in Payson where someone's been given a home occupation and they clearly are exceeding what they're allowed to do. And in those cases, those folks are invited to say, okay, it's time to take the next step. We have zones where you can go and have a commercial business, and you need to do that. But for the most part, these are just things that allow people to have some extra economic support.
So when you say they shouldn't know, it shouldn't make any difference in that neighborhood.
Yeah, there shouldn't be really any impacts to them. Yeah, like we allow a little bit of signage just to identify that somebody has an office there or something like that, but nothing huge, nothing lighted. These people shouldn't be getting huge deliveries and types of things like that. Right? We understand that there are going to be people coming there, but it shouldn't really be any different than just a normal residential neighborhood, right? So these amendments were staff initiated to address the idea of having home occupation operations extend to accessory structures on the property. And this would be applicable in all zones where home occupations are permitted. And specifically, the requested changes would allow the area for the home occupation to not exceed 600 feet. Currently, our zoning code says that it's 500 feet or 25% of the dwelling, whatever is lesser, and we don't like math, so let's just make a simple 600 feet and that's it. 600 square feet and that's it. Really, the substantive part of this amendment is to allow accessory buildings to be used for the home occupation and to allow customers to come into that accessory structure. Currently, an accessory structure could only be used for some storage. But this would just allow a little bit more broad use of that. All of those accessory structures would still have to comply with building code and all of the requirements of the zoning regulations associated with that zone. It's essentially just allowing, instead of the traditional way of only having the home occupation in the dwelling, you could now do it outside of that. Whenever we do ordinance amendments, there's always some changes that we do non-substantive to grammar and make things a little better as we read through that. But really, that's kind of the gist of this. The findings are exactly that. We felt that this was pretty much consistent with our existing code. We live in some interesting economic times, and we just felt that this is another way that people can be more self-reliant and utilize their skills and talents that they've developed to secure their financial longevity and things like that. So we felt that this was something good. We took this to the Planning Commission last week. Planning Commission held a public hearing and after some back and forth on what home occupations really are and some of the gist of this, the Planning Commission felt confident in forwarding a positive recommendation to you folks. So with that, staff's recommendation is just a motion to adopt those proposed amendments to Chapter 1334. And I'm available for any questions.
If there's any discussion or questions for Robert, I'm ready for a motion.
Do I need to disclose anything? I do run a home occupation, so I need to disclose that.
Thank you.
That's perfect.
Good.
I move that we approve the recommendation made to staff to Title 13 or Chapter 1334 relating to home occupations.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and seconded. Roll call vote, starting with Council Christensen.
Yes.
Council Carter.
Yeah.
Council Beecher.
Yes. Council Webb.
Yeah.
Motion carries. Thank you. Thank you, Lloyd.
Robert, thank you. I think that it did look really good. And I see a lot of it. You know, there's people with hair salons behind their houses or little tiny things, long arm quilting machines that put in sheds, stuff like that. I think this is a good opportunity. I don't want to see somebody pulling out a foundry and doing cold rolled still at 3 o'clock in the morning in the neighborhood. But I think just for home occupation kind of things, is we're seeing like ADUs come up, auxiliary dwelling units, small apartments, things like that, that are the state's allowing. I think it kind of fits into suit with that. So
Yeah, I think as we kind of follow that general intent of, if it remains innocuous and just, fits in well with a single family neighborhood, I don't see a lot of harm in that. It's just making sure that they understand from the get-go what they're allowed to do and what they're not allowed to do. And Marty in our office does a really good job of explaining when they come in for their home occupation license, really what that means. This is not just a way to use your house as your business location, right? Like your house is supposed to be a dwelling first and foremost, but we recognize that there are ways that we can support our residents in those other ways.
There's some big companies that start out at home and then move that next step. So
The next Amazon may be among us. That's right.
thank you.
Oh,
Go ahead.
have you found, many in the city that won't agree to getting a business license and are doing things in their garage that darn well they're business?
I'm sure they're out there. I don't know of a lot. Chief Bishop might know of more than I do, but
Had a few problems.
Okay, I did wonder.
Yeah.
Okay.
Generally, if they don't want to get a business license, they don't come see me.
Okay, thank you, Robert. Let's move on to number two, ordinance amendment to the Payson City Code, Title 13, to provide water efficiency standards for landscaping and to amend landscaping requirements.
Perfect. So let me give you a bit of background on this ordinance amendment. Up on the screen, I have a letter that was issued late fall of last year from the Central Utah Water Conservancy District. Basically, this is some efforts by Central Utah Water to encourage people to consider the way that they're landscaping, consider the way that they're using water for landscaping and things like that. Central Utah Water operates a program called Flip Your Strip. And it allows, essentially what Flip Your Strip is a rebate program that allows residents to flip the park strip area in front of their residence to be more water conserving and to use better landscaping and things like that. And Central Utah offers a rebate for residents that do that. As part of that program, however, Central Utah requires that cities adopt regulations and requirements for landscaping standards. And they've listed those here as item number 4. And it specifically addresses the width of lawns and the amount of lawn, which is classified as grass or turf, in the park strip and in the front yard of residential, commercial, industrial, basically any zone that requires landscaping, it addresses that landscaping in those areas. And so in order for residents of the community to qualify for the rebate program, the city has to adopt these standards. And so essentially what we have done with this ordinance amendment, we've taken these requirements as proposed as proposed amendments, and then they also have several recommendations and also some design considerations. Those are exactly it. Those aren't requirements. Those are just things that they suggest ways to landscape a property that is more water conscious. We have included those recommendations and design considerations in this proposed amendment. But again, those are just recommendations, not requirements of the proposed amendment. So let me come back here.
Okay, so let me clarify. So these are just recommendations that this is what the city suggests people do versus what they actually have to do, right?
Well, there is some.
There are requirements of the proposed amendments and there are recommendations. So let me go over the requirements.
So this the requirements that we have to fulfill or requirements for requiring homeowners to fulfill? That's where I'm kind of.
Requirements for new construction.
New construction.
So new construction it would be subject to these requirements, which would allow, and this is where it gets a little bit confusing. The rebate is for existing residences in order to flip the strip, because that's already there. Right. The new requirements would not allow grass and things like that to be done in the park strip and things like that.
Okay, but let me go through this. Some there that like true red flags to me. This is only 25% of the yard is allowed to be grass, but yet got the community pushing us for larger lots. If you have a 3rd-acre lot, well, what do you put in there instead? Now we've got the beautification committee on our case because we've left it as weeds. This will seem to grow really well.
Well, it still have to be landscaped, but there are lots of ways to landscape a yard without grass, shrubs, mulch, bark, rocks, all sorts of different things. It's just
25% 75% of it is non-grass.
so.
It's the whole lot, 25% of the whole lot. which includes the house footprint.
Okay, so let me go through this.
I'm a far cry from that. That's why I'm over here with the deer in the headlight look. I'd probably say that, yeah, but I'm you know,
If you're existing, you don't have to change. This is just reduce.
right. But if somebody came in and was able to snag a 3/4 acre lot and decided to put a moderately sized, 4,000 square foot house on it, there's a lot of area there that would have to be something besides grass based upon these requirements.
So these
That's
requirements,
A lot of not grass. And grass is easy.
Requirements are only if we want to allow the existing residents to qualify for flip the script. Is that right?
but let me explain the requirements a little bit.
I'll let you do that. You did so good on the last one. I'm sure you did it on this one.
I'm gonna just go back to that letter really quick.
It's so little, you can't read it.
I can fix that. Maybe.
Maybe not.
A quarter of a 3/4 lot is still 8,000 square feet of grass.
Yeah, it's a lot of grass.
I'm just getting my front lawn replaced because we had to tear it out for other things. My front lawn is 6,000 square feet,
Okay, so this
which by the way, 14 feet of belongs to Payson City. Because that's where my property line is, but yet I'm required to maintain it. I'm just throwing these red flags out. We're just having a conversation.
That's right. That's right.
So-
So let me put the ground rules in for the conversation.
Yes, sir.
Okay,
Don't interrupt.
so number one. Lawn shall not be less than 8 feet wide at its narrowest point. So what that means is any section of grass has to be larger than 8 feet
8 by 8, right?
in any direction.
Any
So
direction.
narrowest section.
So the narrowest part of grass that you can have is 8 feet wide.
And that's aimed at restricting it from.
Park Street.
Yeah. So it even goes on in just a second to specifically talk about park strips. But this is the next part that's really important. Lawn shall not exceed 35% of the total landscaped area. So the way that we require landscaping in Payson City, though, is we only require the front yard and the front side yards to be landscaped, right? So this regulation does not apply to backyards in Payson City. Again, this is for new construction only. And so when you have lawn in the front yard, it can only be 35% of that landscaped, the landscapable area.
So in your front.
In your front
I'm
yard.
just looking for clarification. I'm just developed a lot next door and they came in and they did this and it looks really nice. There's a lot of rocks and trees and shrubs and there's a little tiny patch of grass right out in front. And I can see that. Yeah, it looks great. It's wonderful. But I'm just wondering, does concrete count? I mean, is your driveway landscapable area or is that exempted from
Hardscape
this?
is not landscape.
No.
So
So
that's what I'm asking. I'm just curious.
Hardscape is not landscape.
yeah, so when you put your house on your lot,
Right.
then you now have a front yard. And that the area that is your driveway is subtracted from that
So it's just-
landscapable area. So if you have whatever left, let's use a round number of 3,000 square feet,
It's the typical front yard, which is 25 foot.
right?
You got 25 foot from the property line to the house.
And 100 people.
And you've got a driveway in that, and you've got, sidewalk in that, and you've got,
And that's it.
those are the things you have in it.
Right.
You have those things, you take those out, then you take
Jonathan's
that
back
area.
there.
And it's times by 35%.
Right.
It's grass.
And so, and there are two requirements for that front yard area. It can exceed 35%. And it can't be less than 8 feet wide.
Right.
So if you think about this, what essentially it's gonna look like, grass and shrubs along the exterior circle of grass in the middle that's at least 8 feet in diameter, right? So that's what it essentially looks like for a front yard.
We're not gonna get out there and measure it, I'm sure. I mean.
No.
Oh, well, hold on.
He will.
I'm just curious.
Councilman Christensen is just ready to go tonight.
I'm on fire. I really not. My wife's trying to get me to tear out this little triangle shaped piece of grass and I'm fighting her on it and it's not 8 feet wide.
But you're an existing residence.
I know I'm an existing resident, but at one point in time I was a new resident.
That's right.
By the way, I do need to disclose that I work for Central Utah.
Thank you. Thank you. That's important.
No, and I understand that it all makes sense. The thing that drives me crazy about like the rock landscaping and stuff, when I bought my house, there was a 3-foot wide strip of rocks all the way around the outside. And when we got there, it was 12, 15 years after it was put in, and it was time to pull out all those rocks and wash them and restart over. And it is a nightmare because the leaves fall in it, the dirt blows in there, and before you know it, those weed barriers don't stop the weeds from growing on top of the rocks. And so you get grass, you get weeds, and it's just, to me, I'm like, it's nice to hop on that lawnmower and mow that area now.
That's very true.
I can see the need to save that, but at the same time, I did have one sprinkler in the backyard that you had to run for 18 hours in order to water the back lawn. So I've come a long ways from that.
Yep.
So
And that's the thing that I wanted to bring up about this was that these requirements would not prevent somebody from having turf in their backyard from property line to property line. Yep. So moving on just a little bit. If the lot is very small, has no backyard, and total landscaped area is less than 250 square feet, and the front yard just can't accommodate the dimensions that we've listed here, then they would be exempt from those requirements. That would be a very small yard, a very large house. And I keep trying to imagine that scenario, and I don't think we have it in Payson yet.
this sounds to me like the only place it would apply would be in town.
Theoretically.
Because but those are.
Yeah.
Right.
So then it goes on and it specifically talks about park strips and just plain prohibits lawn in park strips, no matter how wide they are. And then it says in commercial, industrial, institutional, and multifamily development, common area landscapes, lawns shall not exceed 20% of the total landscaped area outside of active recreation areas. So that active recreation area is a specifically defined term, meaning if you have a field on your property that's designed for recreational purposes, it is exempt from that 35% requirement. You can have a soccer field, you can have a play field and things like that. It's just ornamental landscaping that we're talking about here. Correct.
Yeah, that's
So
not gonna count, but
what's on the outside of the baseball complex would be subject. You know, the landscaped area that's been grass just for the sake of grass, then it becomes subject to this 20%. But the baseball fields themselves are not subject to that at all.
Well, I just wonder, I mean, last council meeting for Hyatt subdivision, the townhomes for White Horse, they were using the common area as their water retention based upon the fact they were planting grass in it, which where's the loophole for something like that?
So most likely we would consider that part of their recreational area and it's not applied. Yeah, it's exempt from this.
I'm just giving you the runaround today.
No, this is really, really important to understand. These specific requirements are really, really important to understand. And so this is really the nuts and bolts of this proposed amendment are these 4 specific requirements, mostly dealing with lawn.
The specific from the CDC if they want to have, what did you say, a dollar or something that they reimburse you, that you already, it costs you like $7 and something a square foot anyway.
Yep,
So
so
you're not getting that much money for redoing it. But it probably needs to be done. I mean, I understand what they're doing, but I mean, I was at planning and zoning and they thought it was a little bit too restrictive.
Yeah.
So, I mean, and they went back and forth, back and forth. I can see that we're trying to save water. It's like, but, and I have nothing against DEP, because I use their water, but it makes me wonder, why are they putting in the restriction? We should be putting the restrictions ourselves according to what the state and federal is asking us to do. So I kind of agree with them until we're forced to do it. It's gonna happen. Why are we doing it now? Are there other communities that are doing the same thing? Like, do you know other communities that have agreed to do this?
so there
I'll
are,
respond to it.
okay,
There are 46 communities in the state that have already done this, okay? 7 of those are in Utah. The restrictions are not central Utah water's restrictions, they're actually state.
Well, that's what I was wondering. So why?
They are the state's
Then why did it
restrictions.
go to CUP? Why did it
Because
say?
CUP is different.
Okay.
CUP is the water. You are in the CUP district,
Yes, I know.
okay? So that's why it's the CUP that sent the letter out. The money actually comes from a state grant for the reimbursement. And it's more this year than it was last year. It's $2 or $3 a foot instead of $1 a foot. And so the money actually comes from the state through the Central Utah project. But it is state mandated. These are state regulations.
See, and that would have been, did you know that? Like, that was so.
they're not, those regulations are not mandatory to the city yet.
No, they will be. We know.
But-
they will.
Correct.
We assume
We
that.
can see the writing on the wall.
What the state has said is that you will follow these regulations. We're not going to fight.
Right, so there's a rebate program that's being offered. And in order to be eligible for the rebate program, you have to adopt these standards. Do we think that the standards are going to one day just be mandatory? Most likely.
Probably, there's no.
Has it happened yet? No. But we can probably see the writing on the wall.
Used to them before they become.
Right.
There are some things to consider. Okay, and I went over this with the planning commission and like Teresa has alluded to, the planning commission had some concerns and you probably read about that and I'll go over that, but just a few things to think about. First of all, this is a rebate program, not a reimbursement program. Okay, in order for residents to totally flip their strip, it's going to cost them more than the rebate that they're going to receive. I don't say that as a matter of discouragement, just as a matter of clarification. That you're probably not going to be able to flip your strip for the rebate that you're going to receive versus what it's going to cost you.
And there are a couple other rebates as well. One of them is for smart controllers and one of them is for low flow toilets and low flow shower and stuff.
Yeah.
So all those things can be.
They can add up, but just to make sure that everybody understands that. I think that to Councilmember Christensen's point earlier, water efficient landscaping does not equate to no maintenance landscaping. You still have to weed it. You still have to take care of it. That's right. The leaf blower needs to be out there because we just had a massive windstorm. So there's a lot of dirt and stuff deposited in those areas, right?
Just don't blow it into the storm drain.
The street. Why do people blow all their crap into the street?
They're not supposed to.
Easier than sweeping it off.
Sorry.
And then, yeah, I think that the other thing was that the Utah Valley Home Builders, we sent this proposed amendment to them. I knew that they would want to comment. They've commented in all those other instances. They sent an email back to me, which I forwarded to all of you, basically saying that they don't like this. There's an expense to this amendment, right?
Some of their statements are scientifically inaccurate. Let's just put it that way.
Right. You'll notice in there that in that email that they suggested that maybe we follow a program similar to what Provo did. Provo did not adopt these standards. They came up with their own program. Whether or not Payson City has the capacity to do something like that is undeterminable right now, but just to give you kind of all the ins and outs of this. All that being said, staff feels that we need to do something. Water conservation needs to be a priority. But it's something that we need to really think about and address, and how do we do that? And so we felt that we would recommend that you move forward with adopting this. It does allow for the rebate program to be available. I know that we've had some calls on that. I don't know how many, but yeah, if that's kind of our recommendation. If you have any questions, additional questions for me, I'd be happy to answer them. Like Councilman Beecher said, he works for Central Utah Water. I'm sure he has additional insight. Yeah.
All right, Councilman Beecher, this is for you. Okay. How can you guarantee that the new landscaping will actually consume less water than what's turf would actually use?
Because I can't guarantee it, but the park strip is a phenomenal water waster.
Right.
Because most of the water goes down the gutter. Most of the water that's on the park strip goes down the gutter. Whereas a targeted drip or something like that, it doesn't get wasted. It goes into the soil and that's it. So a drip irrigation system versus spray head system is 10 or 15 times difference in the amount of water used. And so that's the biggest difference.
I just playing the devil's advocate.
Let me jump in with one thing.
When it comes to water and landscaping.
Yeah, let me jump in with one thing really quickly. The Planning Commission debated this a lot last week. There was some really good discussion about that. In the end, well, at first they wanted to table this and keep working on amendments and keep working on language and things like that. And I said that the council was really anxious to hear this. So if they had concerns, to forward a recommendation to deny if that was the concern. They ended up doing that, but they wanted to specifically have me communicate to you that they 100% support water conservation. They think that the idea of lawn and grass in park strips is silly. They were concerned with the amount of regulation towards front yards, which I think was in the end probably their reason for recommending denial. But later that day, or actually the next day, I had a member of the Planning Commission actually email me and say, I think this is a great conversation that we need to really get into, and offered like a few paragraphs of suggestions and wanted to be on a committee to explore this if you choose to not adopt this proposed amendment. If you do adopt the amendment, then obviously it goes into play, but they just wanted to reiterate that they're totally supportive of water conservation, just concerned about some of the requirements.
It's fun, hard if we don't adopt it, eventually going to come anyhow. These are state recommendations anyway, right?
We didn't even, that was the thing too, like what he told us, I didn't know that. So had he been there and talked to planning and zoning and told them what he just told us, that gives you a different perspective.
of how you need to think of it.
Yeah,
And had they heard it, I'm sure they would have, oh, okay, I didn't think about it that way.
And as far as coming up with drawings, kind of a waste of time.
Well, and it's new construction.
It's only new construction.
You know,
It is for only new
unless
construction.
you want to go and do the park strip. And people, if you're gonna do it, you're gonna do it anyway. I think people go in and change several different times, so.
So the only caveat to that is that it does change the way we as staff operate just a little bit. If this proposed amendment was adopted, we would now require a landscape plan for every single family dwelling unit. We've never done that before. We require landscaping, but we don't currently require a plan. Now we would require a plan that shows what types of materials they're going to be using, where, and then we would also require like a table breaking down the percentages. So it's gonna, I mean, it will require a little bit more review on our part. With the way things are going.
I mean, I'm not a total zero escape person, but it's like, you know, yeah, they're gonna pay $400 for a tree that doesn't require very much water as opposed to a $55 cheap tree that's gonna require a lot of water.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what I'm saying is,
So
can we offer them so they know what they need to put in there and it's not gonna require very much water?
And actually on Central Utah Water's website, there are some really amazing plans and templates that people can follow and use to basically do this. And it's kind of a step-by-step walk you through it.
And actually our conservation people actually help the plan.
Mhm.
So if you have your plan, they can give you suggestions.
It makes sense, but the formula negotiation. I mean, it's timing's in the wind here.
It's going to be an added cost on homeowners, on future homeowners. That's the bottom line.
But if they know, yeah, but if they know they have to do it,
And that cost can be offset by the savings of paying for the law. In the long term.
In long term.
In the long term. Yeah.
we do live in the desert, I say that all the time.
And see, I mean, staff has been back and forth on this. Right, but I think staff's opinion is, it comes down to the fact that we have to do something about water conservation. This by no means solves it. This is just one piece of the puzzle.
Well, maybe if we can implement something like this, it won't have to go in for the date. If we're not.
At least we'll be prepared for it.
Yeah, and the cities that have adopted this, or, you know, Salt Lake City and North Salt Lake, Riverdale and Washington Terrace and Alpine, they're not little places. Vineyard and Cedar Hills.
Okay, I think we have had a good discussion on this.
One more comment.
Go ahead.
I want it to be known that I love it as a recommendation, and to throw it out there and to push it, I think is a great option. The requirement to me seems a little bit much. I wish there was a way to incentivize people to do it from our end, you know, or whatever it might be. I love to see a recommendation to the home builders, but requirement, it just seems like you're gonna have to hire a landscape architect and to do all of this kind of stuff, and it's not. I don't know, but most of it's done by builders.
Yeah.
I would love it to be a requirement for large scale construction. Small infill, I don't know that I love it. If it's an infill lot, that's an existing neighborhood. Can we call them new neighborhoods versus old neighborhoods? Instead of new builds and old builds, I don't.
That goes back to the state because they're gonna control that.
New construction.
I know, and it just comes back to, I don't know.
You know,
You're starting to do
infill is gonna have
infill.
very, 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 very small footprint. as far as.
Yeah, because most of them are back behind another house.
They're back behind another house, so they're not gonna have, they're
Well,
not
I-
gonna have the park strip issue, they're not gonna have, that's already done.
And I don't know, in my neighborhood, they've built 35 homes in the last 10 years, and they're not little lots. Because it's the old part of town, they're big, they were undeveloped lots. There's one across the street from me that's a third of an acre and another one that's a quarter of an acre, and
Again, remember, it's only the front yard,
I know it is
the
a
restrictions.
right. But I just worry that it might force a front yard to stand out and look different, and I don't know. I'm just,
Again, maybe if this is adopted, that we adopted and the curious.
It's a great example.
Part of the problems in the backyard. won't- Anyhow, again, if there's any other, discussion, I'm ready to go ahead and listen to that, but if not, I'm ready for a motion.
I'm not gonna make a motion. Because I work there, so I'm not gonna make a motion.
I kind of agree with him,
You made the
but I
motion.
also agree with him, because I know it's coming.
If
It's
there's no
just a matter-
motion, we'll just have to let it.
I know, so what do we want to do, people?
I really am game for new developments,
That's
but infill, I'm not big on it. I would love it as a recommendation for infill houses, but a requirement for.
The bottom line there, we have.
In order to qualify for the rebate, we don't have a choice. We clearly have a choice because we.
We do have a choice.
Vote this down and not run with it.
We do have a choice until it comes down to the mandate.
But it's still coming from the state.
Right, well, then-
DEP. I mean, it's just a matter of, it's like meters on everybody's house by 2030. Even out in the county, everybody's gonna have to have a meter, a water meter on their house.
It'd be nice to separate that, but I think it's not.
I would like to separate it too.
Okay, I am ready for a motion. If there is one, fine. If there's not one, we'll let it die. If you want to make.
No, if you make the motion.
You have to have something on the record.
Yes. If you want to make a motion and then it's.
Have to have three.
Then that's where.
Okay, I'll make a motion
No, two to get the motion on.
to
the
accept
table.
the ordinance on the amendments to the Payson City Code Title 13 to provide water efficiency standards for landscaping and to amend landscaping requirements on new development.
Good motion. Is there a second to that motion?
I'll second that.
Okay. We have a motion been seconded. Roll call vote is required, starting with Council Hyatt.
Yeah.
Beecher.
Yes.
Council Carter.
Yes.
Council Christensen.
No.
Motion carries. Motion carries. Thank you. That was a good discussion. It's too bad, ladies, and our royalty, that there's not more people here from the citizenry to see what we do. Thank you for being here. I would have loved to have had the council chambers vote, so they understand
I know,
how
but you still did a
we
great
try
job.
to make things correct. So thank you for being here.
You take a government class next year, you might want to take an agenda, so you don't have to do this twice.
Okay.
I moved that we adjourn.
Right.
Let's all second this together.
All in favor, say aye.